is Agnes Moorehead, and I'm particularly excited over the drama you will hear presently. The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, in which I play the role of the governess. Of the many characters he created, none is more challenging to an actress than the unnamed governess in The Turn of the Screw. In the end, we know little about her, but we know that we have been in the presence of evil. We've been harrowed and terrified. And because the focus of the story is two children, because it is at them that the threat is directed, the effect is given, in James's own words, another turn of the screw.
This is General Electric's stereo drama.
I was somewhat anxious as I walked up Harley Street. It was, I recall, a pleasant day, warm and sunny. A hansom cab went by, and somewhere near, possibly in Cavendish Square, a hurdy-gurdy played. I rang, and a maid in a white cap and apron opened the door. Good morning.
I know, miss. You're expected. This way, please.
She led me to the study, and there he was. How can I describe him when I've never seen anyone even remotely like him before? He was tall, handsome, dressed in the height of fashion, and still very manly.
Well, this is an agreeable surprise.
I beg your pardon?
I was not referring to your presence, but shall we say to your appearance.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Our correspondence has already told me almost everything I wish to know about you. But I still felt it might be useful for us to meet.
I felt the same way about it.
Come in, come in.
Thank you.
Now, about details. Bly, the house, is in Essex. It has its own grounds and is quite adequately staffed. In addition to Mrs. Gross, the housekeeper, there's a cook, a housemaid, a groom, and a gardener. While nominally you will be the governess, actually you will be in complete charge.
Who are my charges to be? How many children are there?
2. But Miles is away at school and will be your responsibility only during his holidays. However, he's coming home within a day or so, which is why the matter is urgent.
And how old are they?
Well, there you have me. As you know, they are my brother's children. He and his wife are dead. And being unmarried myself, well, Flora is 8. Or is she 10? And Miles must be about 14?
I see. At any rate, not infants.
No, they're quite mature. And quite intelligent. At least, so the previous young lady informed me.
The previous...
Well, there was, until recently, another young lady taking care of them.
Oh.
It was because she left that I was forced to send Miles away to school.
I see.
Now, there is one condition to all this. If you accept the responsibility of this post, you must accept full responsibility for it. If any problems come up, you must deal with them yourself. You must never trouble me, never write to me either to complain or to ask for advice.
That doesn't frighten me, the responsibility. But, of course, you will come down occasionally to see how the children are doing.
No. Not unless the circumstances are extraordinary.
I assumed since you were their only relative... Well, I will take the post, and I will do the best I can. I went down by coach the next day. Luke, the groom, met me with a fly and took me to the house. It was even lovelier than I had expected. There were vast sweeps of lawn, a lake. And when the carriage stopped, there, waiting at the door, were a pleasant-looking middle-aged woman and one of the most beautiful children I have ever seen.
Good afternoon, miss. Welcome to Bly.
Thank you. You must be Mrs. Gross, and this must be Flora.
I'm most happy to meet you, miss.
And I to meet you, Flora. Oh, but she's lovely, charming.
She is that, miss, and as good as she's pretty. Well, shall I show you to your room?
No, let Flora do it. After all, if we're to be friends, we should become acquainted.
Oh, may I? Because I hope we're going to be friends.
She took my hand, warm and trusting from the very beginning, led me into the house and up the stairs. Then, opening a door...
This is your room. I hope it suits.
Oh, it does. Admirably. And your room, Flora, where's yours?
Just across the hall there.
Oh, that must be very lonesome for you all alone in there. How would you like to move in here with me?
Oh, could I? I should love that. I do get lonesome, especially with Miles away. But Miss Jessel likes to be by herself.
Well, I'm not Miss Jessel. We'll have your things moved in after tea. Now, whose are these other rooms?
That's Miles, next to mine. And that's Mother's and Father's. It's kept locked now.
Oh.
And that's Uncle's, when he comes down here.
And up the stairs there?
Oh, there's nothing up there. Just the tower room.
And whose is that? Mrs. Gross?
No. She's in the other wing, in back. Tower room is no one's. Not now.
But I should like to see it. I want to see everything. Come up there with me.
But I... Very well.
But it's quite a nice room. Smaller than mine, but the view is even better. Why are you standing there, my dear?
Because I don't like to go in there.
Why?
Because it was his room. Quint's.
Quint?
He was Uncle's valet. He stayed here with us for a while. And then he went away. He's gone now.
I see. All right, Flora. We'll go down now. Miles arrived late the next afternoon. Flora and I were in my room, our room, when the fly got to the house. We went down together, but by that time Miles had come in and was standing in the hall with Mrs. Gross. He looked up at me and I looked down at him. And, well, I must confess that when I saw him then for the first time, my pulse quickened. There was something about him that reminded me of someone else. Yes, his uncle. Something in the way he stood there, his assurance.
Miles! Oh, Miles! I am glad to see you.
Hello, Flora.
This is the young master, miss.
It's very nice to meet you, ma'am.
It's nice to meet you, Miles. I trust you had a good journey.
Very. The coachman let me sit in the box with him part of the way.
Oh,
But I'm afraid I'm rather dusty. Would you excuse me if I went up to wash?
of course.
I'll go up with you. At least, may I?
Yes, Flora. I'll see you both later. Well,
Yes, miss. He is a fine, handsome boy. And he does resemble his uncle.
yes, he does.
Oh, it's good to have him home again. Oh, by the way, miss, Luke brought the post bag also, and there was this letter in it for you.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Gross.
It's from the master, isn't it? Their uncle.
Yes. Enclosing a letter from the headmaster at Miles's school. He never even opened it. Wants me to read it, answer it, if it requires an answer.
Yes, that's like the master. A most pleasant gentleman, but he doesn't like to be troubled.
What's this? They've sent the boy home from school.
Well, haven't they sent them all home? I mean...
For the holidays, yes, but they say Miles can't come back. They won't take him back under any circumstances.
But why?
They don't say. They only say they won't have him, that they have a responsibility to the other boys. Oh, as if he were a bad influence on them or a danger to them.
Master Miles.
The most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. I'll admit I don't really know the boy.
But I do, miss. I've known him since he was born. And to suspect him
Well,
of
he
anything...
shan't go back there. I wouldn't send him back even if they wanted him. We'll find another school for him after the holidays.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way about it, miss. Not that I can say I've never known him to do anything wrong, anything at all.
Then he has.
Well, not done anything really bad. Wicked enough to have him dismissed from school.
This badness of his, I don't want to know what it was, but did it have anything to do with you, or did it involve someone else? Miss Jessel, say?
Miss Jessel? How did you know about her?
Well, I know there was someone here before me, and not the governess. Their uncle told me that. And Flora told me her name.
Oh, yes.
What was she like, Miss Jessel?
Oh, she was young and pretty, miss. She was a lady. At least she was supposed to be. And I thought she was at first, but afterwards... Well, one mustn't speak ill of someone who's gone for good.
You mean she's dead?
Yes, miss.
I didn't know that. She didn't die here, did she?
Oh, no, miss. She went away. And then afterwards we heard that she died. But if Flora told you about her, did she also tell you about...
Who? Or what?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Will you excuse me, miss? I must see Cook about dinner.
The next day went quickly. Spending time with Flora alone had been pleasant, but having Miles there, too, was an enchantment. Just before tea time, I left them reading and went for a walk around the grounds by myself. A flight of rooks flew overhead, and in the distance the village bells rang for vespers. I was thinking, I remember, of him, the children's uncle. Of what it would be like if he should suddenly appear around a turn of the path and smile at me. When all at once, all sounds stopped. Yes, all, as if everything about me had been struck dead. I turned, startled, looked back at the house. And there in the tower room was a man looking at me, watching me. We stared at each other for a moment. He was some distance off, but I felt that he was a stranger, that I didn't know him. Or did I? I couldn't be sure. But of one thing I was sure. He was evil as something from the pit. Then he must have stepped backward, away from the window, for he disappeared. Mastering myself, telling myself to be reasonable, I hurried back to the house.
Good afternoon, miss. Is anything wrong?
No. At least, I don't know. Tell me, Mrs. Gross, has anyone just arrived? Some unexpected guest?
Why, no.
You're sure?
But of course I'm sure.
Then, Mrs. Gross, tell me, is there anything I should know that I don't know yet? Anyone here, living here, perhaps secretly?
What? Oh, no, miss, nothing like that. Whatever made you think it?
Because when I was outside just now, I saw someone up in the tower room. And it wasn't anyone I knew, Luke or the gardener or...
Someone? You mean a gentleman?
No, not a gentleman. His clothes were quite good. I noticed his waistcoat, but decidedly not a gentleman. That's why I wondered whether... Couldn't it have been Quint?
Quint? How do you know about Quint?
Flora told me he had had the tower room. And so couldn't he have come back here to get something he'd forgotten, or...
No, miss, no. How could he when... Miss, tell me, did he, the man you saw, did he have red hair?
I'm not sure. Yes. Yes, I am sure he did have. He did.
Lord have mercy on me. But it can't be. It's impossible. It was getting dark and you were far away. You only thought, imagined.
But I didn't. I tell you, I'm sure.
No, miss, it's... Please, let's not talk of it anymore.
Turning, she hurried away, leaving me there, and leaving me with a deep and gnawing dread. Late the next afternoon, we were in the schoolroom, for that is what we made of Flora's old room when she moved into my room with me. Flora was practicing her penmanship. She had done several pages without a scratch or blot, and Miles was reading. At least I thought he was reading. I'd given him the book myself. When I looked up and found that he was looking at me, studying me with a strange look in his eyes.
I've done another page, miss, and I think this is even better than the others.
Oh, it is, Flora. It's completely admirable. Have you finished, Miles?
Yes, I have, ma'am.
And did you like it?
Very much. Would you like to hear it? When to the sessions of sweet silent thought I summon up remembrance of things past, I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye, unused to flow, for precious friends hid in death's stateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight.
You mean you got that by heart after just one reading?
No, ma'am. I must confess to you that I read it once or twice before at school. I think one of the reasons they didn't like me so much there was because I like poetry. But it's true, I do have a good memory.
Good. I think it's miraculous. Well, that's enough for today. What do you say to a walk?
Oh, yes, let's. Can we go down to the lake?
Of course, my dear, wherever you like. We went down together, but when we got to the door, I realized I had forgotten my gloves. I had left them in the dining room after lunch. I sent the children on and went in to get them. It was a gray day and the light was dim, but there was enough of it to see the gloves on a chair. And at the same time, I saw something else. Him. The man I'd seen in the tower room looking in through the window at me. Again we stared at each other. And this time I was close enough to him to see that his hair was red and long and combed with a swirl over his low forehead. But most of all, I could see his eyes, dark and glittering and seeming to look deep into me and see things that were... He looked at me, then past me, as if searching for someone or something else. And finally, he stepped back. Where I got the courage, I don't know. But I hurried to the nearby French door, opened it, and stepped outside. And he was gone. I had not been a moment. I had barely taken my eyes from him, and still he was gone. The terrace, the lawns were empty with a great emptiness. I turned back to the dining room, looking in through the window as he had done, and at that moment, Mrs. Gross came in from the hall.
Oh, my. Oh, miss, you frightened me.
Well, I didn't mean to. I just saw him again. He was outside there, looking in through the windows. Quint.
Quint? But that's impossible. I told you it was impossible.
Why is it impossible?
Because he's dead.
Dead?
Yes. He came down with the master last year They were both here for a while. Then the master left, and Quint stayed on. And while he was here, he was in charge.
And afterwards?
Well, I never liked him. Never. And after, when the master was gone, he was worse. Much worse. There were things missing.
He stole?
Oh, he did worse than that, but I could do nothing about it.
But you still haven't told me how he died.
Well, it was after Miss Jessel had gone. He had taken to leaving here at night. Sometimes he went to the village, to the pub. Sometimes he went no one knows where. One winter night, he did not come back. In the morning, they found him, a gash on his forehead, lying dead at the foot of the hill.
But what had happened to him?
Well, they said that he'd fallen and hit his head, but it was a savage blow, and there were many who did not like him.
You mean that it could have been murder?
I don't know, miss.
And to think that he had charge of them, the children. That Miss Jessel permitted.
I know.
But she's dead, too.
Oh, if it had been me, I should have died of fright.
I was frightened, too. Even though I didn't know then.
No.
That he was dead. But now, Mrs. Gross, awful, terrifying as that is, there is something even worse.
Oh, what do you mean? But how can there be?
There can be. There is. You see, he was looking for someone or something. And now it's clear. He came here for one of them. The children.
We have heard Act 1 of The Turn of the Screw. Tonight you are participating in a true premiere in entertainment. This evening's performance of The Turn of the Screw is the first dramatic presentation prepared especially for network broadcast via stereophonic FM radio. The General Electric Company is gratified to bring you this historic program. And General Electric is proud of its role in helping to create still another milestone in radio broadcasting. It was on June 1st, 1961, that GE's research in FM stereo made possible the first commercial FM stereo broadcast on WGFM, the General Electric station in Schenectady, New York. Today, there are some 177 stations from coast to coast broadcasting in this exciting new medium. Musical programming in FM stereo was a critical and popular success from the beginning. And now the depth and dimension of stereo comes to drama. Our performers, our writers, directors, and producers are all most enthusiastic about their roles in this new venture, and enthusiasm reflected in the performance you're hearing this evening. The QXR network is also enthusiastic about the potential of stereo drama and wishes to thank General Electric for making possible this exciting addition to its programming service. All of us concerned feel that there is enormous potential for dramatic offerings in stereophonic FM radio, not only as entertainment per se, but as an important new cultural force in the community. The Turn of the Screw is the first in a series of stereo dramas. On March 27th, we present Billy Budd, starring Peter Ustinov. On April 17th, The Fall of the House of Usher with Joseph Cotton. And on May 15th, Cyril Richard will star in Visit to a Small Planet. Naturally, these stereo dramas are an experiment. And so, we welcome your comments, your criticism, your suggestions. Write to General Electric Stereo Drama in care of this station. This is the QXR Network.
This is WDTM, Detroit's Taliesin station at 106.7 FM.
As the house lights dim, we return to that strange house in Essex, to The Turn of the Screw, and to Agnes Moorehead as the governess.
Perhaps you wonder how I could face the children after that. but I managed. After all, I had to. Somehow I got through that night, and of course the next day was not quite so difficult. But the next night, I'm not sure what woke me. An owl? One of the village dogs? But when I woke, Flora was standing next to my bed, her eyes large and dark, her face pale in the moonlight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you.
You didn't, Flora. Is anything wrong?
Oh, no. I just wanted to make sure you were still here.
But of course I'm still here. Where would I go?
I don't know. But sometimes, at night, she would go someplace.
She?
Miss Jessel.
Oh. Well, how do you know? You weren't here in the same room with her.
No. But sometimes I would hear her door, and then footsteps.
Going where?
I don't know. I would just hear them, and...
Did you hear any now? Is that what woke you?
Oh, no. Where are you going?
To see.
Oh, no, please.
I must. Now, get back into bed. I won't be a moment. I went out into the hall and stood there for a moment, listening. But there was nothing. No sound either above or below. The door of Miles's room was closed, and on an impulse I went over, opened it quietly, and it was empty. Miles was not in his bed. I went in to one of the windows and looked out. At first I saw nothing, just the park, the lake glimmering in the distance. Then something moved. And yes, there he was, Miles, standing at the bottom of the terrace and looking up. Not at the window of his room, but up higher than that, at the tower room above. He started up the terrace towards the house, and I sat down on the bed, waiting.
Oh, it's you.
Yes. Are your feet wet?
I don't think so.
But they must be. Here's a towel. Dry them and then get back into bed.
Yes, ma'am.
Miles, where were you?
Nowhere. Just outside.
But why? Why did you go outside?
I just wanted to.
But why did you want to? There must have been a reason.
Yes, there was. Do you think I'm good?
Of course I think you're good. Very good.
That's what I thought. And I have the feeling you don't like people who are too good.
What? Whatever do you mean?
The other day you talked about a boy you once knew. The boy who sang in the choir.
You mean at the parsonage? Oh, but he wasn't a boy. At least, he was my age.
Yes, I know. But I had a feeling that though you liked him, you would have liked him even more if he had not been quite so good. So I did what I did. Went out to show you I could be quite bad.
Is it that important to you? That I should like you?
Can't you see that it is?
Yes. But don't you know that I do like you? Like you very much. In fact... Oh, Miles. Miles, my dear boy.
I hoped you'd do that. Kiss me.
Now tell me the truth. Is that really why you went out? Are you sure it wasn't to meet someone? The next day, both children were pale, subdued, and I was somewhat listless myself. So in the afternoon, I took them out to get some air. We went down to the lake. There was a boat there, and Miles insisted on taking the oars, rowing us over to the other side. Are you sure it's not too much for you?
My dear.
Miles is quite strong. Stronger than he looks.
Thank you, Flora.
I smiled at them both, but particularly at him. Rowing had given him back his color. And since he was playing the gentleman, he looked somewhat older and more like someone else. We landed, and I took myself into the shade to read while they played at the water's edge. I was tired and sleepy, and I was starting to nod when...
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I disturbing you?
No, Miles, of course not.
I thought if you were tired of reading, perhaps we could play something.
I'd be delighted. What would you like to play?
What about the Crimean War?
Well, that sounds interesting. How would we go about it?
I'm not sure yet, but this is a splendid place for it. The lake could be the Sea of Azov, and this the Crimea. I'll be Lord Raglan, and you can be Florence Nightingale.
And Flora?
We'll think of something for her. But first we have to find a place for the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the charge of the Light Brigade. Shall we try in here?
Very well.
Mind the branches.
I started to follow him in amongst the trees. But before I did, I glanced back, looking for Flora. She was still there at the edge of the lake. She had found a flat piece of wood with a hole in it, was fitting a stick into it to make a boat. Then my eyes went past her, and I froze, my heart skipping a beat. For on the far side of the lake, watching her, was a woman I had never seen before, but whom I knew. She was young, about my age, but looked older than her years. She was dressed all in black, and there was an awful, dreadful stillness about her as she stood there watching Flora. My eyes came back to Flora. She was still busy, intent on the boat that she was making. But suddenly I was aware of the worst horror of all. She, Flora, knew. Knew who or what was standing there on the other side of the lake waiting for her. And it wasn't only Flora. They both knew. That was why Miles was trying to involve me in his game, to draw me farther away, leave Flora alone with her. I sat out on the terrace after tea watching them, the two of them with new eyes. They were walking up and down on the lawn below, Miles with a book in one hand, his other arm around Flora. The door opened behind me, and Mrs. Gross came out.
You've been very quiet ever since you came back, miss. I didn't want to ask before while they were here, but...
No. Well, I have reason to be quiet. Something else happened this afternoon while we were down at the lake.
Something else?
No, not Quint again. This time, it was his companion.
Miss Jessel? Oh, no, miss, no, it couldn't.
I know, and still it was. But that's not the worst of it. They knew. The children.
They knew?
That they're about Quint and that woman. And what's even more shattering, they liked the idea. This afternoon, Miles tried to draw me away into the woods so that Flora could be alone with her.
But how can you be sure of that?
Because I am sure as I am that... You think that Miles is reading to Flora now? He's not. He has a book in his hand, yes. But they're talking horrors.
Of them?
Of them. Of how they can get away from us and to them.
But why? Why should they want to?
Partly because it's a game to outwit us. Partly because of the attraction of evil. The evil that Quint and she taught them in days gone by. But mostly because they don't know what it would mean if they should go to them.
And what do you think it would mean?
But don't you know?
Yes. Their end. The end for both of them. But the other two, Quint and she, why should they want them?
Are they evil? Were they?
Yes, Quint at least.
Isn't that the function of evil? To destroy good?
Yes. Yes. But, oh, miss, we can't let it happen. We must save them.
How?
Get them away from here. Send them away to him.
Their uncle? Well, you know him better than I, but when I saw him, if there was one thing he was firm about, it was that he was not to be troubled.
Yes, it's true. He does hate to be troubled. And if we should send them there to Harley Street... All right. If we can't send them to him, then we must get him to come down here. Oh, will you write him and get him to come here?
It won't be an easy letter to write. I'll do it. At least try to do it tonight. I sent Flora into Miles's room after supper to play while I sat in our room with pen in hand and paper before me. Had I said it was not an easy letter to write, it was impossible. All I could do was impress him very carefully with our great need, and so I wrote, calling on all my skill and subtlety. I had barely done one paragraph when... Yes? Come in. It was the children, both dressed very strangely. Miles was wearing a long, brightly colored robe, probably a man's dressing gown, with a turban on his head. And Flora was swathed in long, flowing scarves. He carried a toy drum in one hand, a candlestick in the other, and she had a pair of cymbals. They both looked outlandish, but incredibly beautiful, like a pair of exotic angels.
Are we disturbing you?
Of course not. Why are you dressed that way?
There are costumes.
We thought somehow you seemed remote, unhappy. And so we thought you might like it if we put on a little play for you.
Well, that's a charming idea. I should love it. What are you going to do?
Well, it would spoil it to tell you. You'll see. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, whereout the sacred river ran, through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground, with walls and towers were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree. And here were forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. Oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedern cover. A savage place, as holy and enchanted as e'er...
Why are you stopping? Why don't you go on?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I've forgotten the next few lines.
Forgotten? How could you forget?
I just have. I don't know the poem too well.
Don't you? A savage place, as holy and enchanted, as e'er beneath a waning moon was haunted, by woman wailing for her demon lover? Why would you not say that?
I told you I forgot.
You with your incredible memory? That was not the reason. You had another one, deeper and darker. What do you know of haunted places, and of women wailing for their lovers, their demon lovers?
Nothing.
You're lying, Miles. You did it. Put on this whole performance. Just to...
Please, I don't know how or why we've upset you, but it's clear we have. I'm sorry. We'd better go. Come, Flora.
They went, leaving me in a turmoil. Had I said they looked like angels? A pair of fiends, rather. It took me till after midnight to finish the letter to their uncle. A storm was brewing, the wind wailing around the house. My candle guttered as I went down the stairs and put the letter on the hall table for Luke to post. Then I went back up the stairs again. And when I reached the top, I saw a gleam of light under Miles's door. He was still up. I hesitated, then went in. Why aren't you asleep, Miles?
Well, you might want to come in. You want to talk.
About what?
I don't know. Whatever you like.
Oh. Well, perhaps I do owe you an apology for the way I acted. What I said before. I shouldn't have said you were lying.
I'd never lie to you. Never. There are other things I might do, but I'd never lie. Do you believe me?
Yes, Miles. I do, and I apologize. But as you recognized yourself, I was upset. I have been for some time. I tell you, all I want to do is help you.
Help me how?
To free yourself, you and Flora, too, from this coil of evil. I've watched it tightening around you, and... Oh, Miles. Miles, my dear, if you'd only help me now. Help me to save you both. Candle. What happened to the candle?
It was just the wind. It blew out.
It wasn't the wind. It was... Wait a minute. Flora.
Where are you going?
Back to my room. To her. I threw the door open. The room was dark, but by the fitful flashes of lightning, low down on the horizon, I could see Flora sitting bolt upright in bed. And I could also see something else. She was there, too. She stood by the open window, her black dress blending with the dark sky outside, but her pallid face gleaming like a corpusant. She didn't move. She stood there looking at me steadily.
Oh, you startled me.
I'm sure I did. You thought he could keep me there, didn't you?
He?
Miles. Don't you think I see it now? That was all a plot? He with his candle lit to get me to come into his room, hoping to keep me there, talking, while you and she...
Please don't. Can't you see that you're frightening Flora?
I frighten either of you.
But you are frightening me. You are. You are.
All right, let's have it out in the open then. Look over there near the window and tell me what you see.
Why, nothing.
Nothing. Are you pretending that you don't see her, Miss Jessel?
Miss Jessel?
But she's dead.
Heaven have mercy on me. What is it? What's going on?
Oh, Mrs. Cross. Take me away from here. Take me away from her.
From me?
Yes, from you. From you. I never want to see you again.
The next morning, the whole house was strangely hushed. Miles kept to his room, and I had breakfast all by myself. I had just finished when...
Good morning, miss.
Good morning. How's Flora?
Not well, I fear.
You mean she's sick? Really sick?
It seems so. She tossed and turned all night, barely slept. And when she did, she kept crying out. And this morning, she's all flushed and feverish. You know, I was thinking perhaps we should call the doctor.
If you wish. But he will not be able to treat what truly ails her. There is only one person who could do that.
Her uncle.
Yes.
Oh, but heaven only knows how long it will take him to get here. You've not even written to him yet, and here...
Of course I have. I wrote last night, put the letter on the hall table. Luke must have taken it, posted it first thing this morning.
But I was down here before Luke came over from the stable. There was no letter on the hall table.
But I put it there myself last night. Miles.
Miles?
He was the only one who would have taken it.
Oh, no, miss, he'd never do that.
But he did. I know he did.
But if he did... Oh, miss, what are we going to do?
There's only one thing to do. Time is getting short. That fiendish pair, Quint and that woman, are getting bolder. I think I can fight them off. Keep them away from at least one of the children. But I cannot guard them both. You must take Flora away.
To London?
Yes, to her uncle. They left late in the afternoon. I heard the fly pull up to the door, heard them get in while Luke brought out their baggage. Then I heard them leave. I was in my room at the time. I stayed there, hoping that Miles would come in so that we could talk. But he didn't, and I didn't see him again until that evening.
We're alone.
Well, almost alone.
Yes, there are the others. Somehow there are always the others.
Are there?
You know that there are. It sounds as if we shall have another storm.
Yes. Shall we talk now?
Yes.
Then tell me, Miles. Did you take that letter I wrote to your uncle?
Yes. Yes, I did.
You admit it?
Of course I admit it.
Is that what you did at school? Why they won't have you back?
You mean because I took things? Stole? Oh, no. How could you think that?
Then why did they dismiss you?
I imagine it was because of things I said to some of the other boys.
What sort of things?
I'd rather not tell you. They were things I'd heard, learned, that none of the other boys seemed to know.
And where did you learn them?
From someone.
From Quint?
Yes, from Quint.
And were they very terrible things?
They did not seem so at the time, but I suppose they must have been.
I see. I think I can guess what they were. And what did you do with the letter?
I burned it.
Why?
May I hold your hand while I tell you that?
My hand? Well, we can do better than that. Come here, and I'll hold you in my arms.
Yes. This is better.
Then tell me.
I did it because, in spite of what happened, what you did, I still like you.
What I did?
Yes. Pretending you'd seen Miss Jessel. Because I knew if you wrote Uncle about it, he'd send you away. And
pretending? You think I was pretending?
You mean you weren't?
Of course not. She was there. I saw her. But that's not important. What is important is why you did it. That you did it for me. And...
What is it? Why are you trembling?
Because... Look there.
No, I can't. Is it she again?
No, it's not she. It's Quint.
Quint? No, it can't be. Where?
Just outside there. Looking in. Turn around and you'll see.
No, I can't. I won't. Let go of me.
I shan't let you go. You shan't go to him, and he shan't come to you in spite of everything. Stay where you are.
Just as you say, madam.
Yes, as I say, and I say you shan't have him.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure, because no matter what you did to him, tried to do to him, he's still good. Destroying that letter for the reason he did proved it. And no matter who or what you are.
And who am I?
Not mention your name, but I know it.
Yes, you know it. And my voice, too. When did you last hear it?
Your voice?
You heard it in London, in Harley Street, and it's been sounding in your ears ever since.
What are you saying?
That it's his voice that you're hearing. The Master's. Of whom were you thinking when you saw me for the first time? Of him. And whose clothes was I wearing? His. Because there was something you wanted.
No, you shan't confuse or frighten me. You exist.
Oh, yes, I exist. I have existed ever since a certain thought was born in the darkness of your mind.
It's not true. It's not true. You're lying. You're only trying to torture and torment me because you've lost.
Have I?
Yes, Flora's gone, and neither you nor that wicked woman can reach her. As for Miles, he's mine now. I've saved him.
Have you?
Yes. Now go. I order you to go.
Yes, madam. Anything you say, madam.
He went, fading slowly into the darkness. I continued to hold Miles tightly in my arms. He was strangely still. I shook him. Miles? Miles? I said. But he didn't answer, and his eyes remained closed. We were alone, and his little heart, dispossessed, had stopped. Would never beat again.
And now this is George Edwards hoping that you've enjoyed our dramatic premiere tonight and that you'll be joining us on the 27th of this month for Billy Budd, starring Peter Ustinov. Meanwhile, next Wednesday, the wit and whimsy of Victor Borger will again be with us on the General Electric Music Theater. This is the QXR Network.